Good day, everyone, and good day, ma'am. We are here today to discuss or to report about ecotourism. Next, we have our learning objectives. So, these are our learning objectives for today. To learn about the different description and definition of ecotourism, nature-based tourism, and know three basic principles of ecotourism. Have knowledge about ecotourism, cite the differences between ecotourism and mass tourism. So this chapter discusses the various concepts and principles of ecotourism as a subset of a nature-based tourism and a form of sustainable tourism. The differences between mass tourism and ecotourism are also examined. The qualities of an ecotourist are also discussed. It is assumed that tourist experience in a natural setting it is either directly, purposely, or indirectly incidental, enhanced by nature. So to further discuss about the definition and description of ecotourism, let's have Pipito.
Thank you, Miss Alexis. So, our first discussion is about ecotourism. As a traveling to relatively undisturbed or uncontaminated nature areas to study, admire, and enjoy nature and its culture manifestations by Ceballos Lascarin in 1983. Ecotourism aims to bring together sustainable travel, communities, and environmental protection. Other definition of ecotourism according to the International Ecotourism Society, ecotourism can be defined as responsible travel to nature areas that conserve the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people, and involves interpretation and education. So we also have here the International Year of Ecotourism in 2002 emphasized the important role of tourism in sustainable development. Next slide, please. Ecotourism, a subset of nature-based tourism. Difference between ecotourism and nature-based tourism. Nature tourism, unlike ecotourism, does not necessarily include conservation motives, while nature-based tourism is a broad category that includes other forms of tourism such as adventure tourism, which is an outdoor leisure activity usually undertaken in remote or unusual places. So in other words, nature tourism is dili kay siya more on activities and nature-based tourism kay more on activities siya and adventure. So we also have here three types of adventure tourism. First is the small-scale tourism. Ang example ani niya kay bird watching, scuba diving sad. And we also have here middle-scale sport-oriented tourism. Example for this is canoeing, rafting, and kayaking. Last is large-scale tourism. Ang example ani niya kay safari. So, local culture and indigenous are also being promoted as an attraction product in conjunction with nature-based tourism because the culture components of the environment is closely linked with the nature environment. Thus, culture cannot be separated from nature in the numerous ecotourism destinations. So, for example, the indigenous tourism in the Ifugao rice terraces located in northern Philippines is a form of ecotourism depicting the close relationship between the colorful tradition culture of the Ifugaos and the spectacular 2,000 years old rice terraces. Therefore, cultural tourism may also be referred to as tourism. Next Next slide, please. Ecotourism, a form of sustainable tourism. Despite the unclear and fuzzy definition of ecotourism, it is also recognized as a form of sustainable tourism. Ecotourism has been broadened to include the notion of sustainability, environmental education, and ethical perspective by Ceballos Loscarrain in 1996. A set of sustainability principles commonly applied to ecotourism by Bjork 2002. So these are the principle relates to. First is the educational opportunities. Second is the planning consideration. Third is ethical responsibility. And lastly is the provision of community benefits. So Funnell in 2002 analyzed some 85 definitions of ecotourism in the literature and conclude that there is increasing emphasis on the notion of sustainability and benefits to locals. So Newsome et al. 2002 suggests 5 interrelated components or characteristics that distinguish ecotourism from other tourism types. The first 3 components are ecotourism specific, and the last 2 are desirable for all tourism forms. These are the nature-based, ecological sustainable, environmentally educational, local beneficial, and high-quality tourist experience. Next slide, please. Danahu and Needham in 2006 named 6 qualities of ecotourism that are mentioned frequently in the tourism literature, and that are the nature-based, prevention or conservation, education, sustainability, distribution of benefits, ethics or responsibility, or awareness. As shown, ethics was added in the list of attributes of ecotourism. According to them, White in 1993, ethic aspects of ecotourism distinguishes it from other forms of tourism, while Funnell in 2001 states that the value-based dimension of ecotourism includes not only conservation, sustainability, education, and community benefits, but also ethics. As a result, research and development prioritized for tourism have been focused on a better understanding of the linkage between people and the environment, especially on matters addressing poverty at tourist destinations. So that will be all. That ends my report. We move on to another reporter. Let's all welcome Miss Alexis.
Hello, good morning, good day, everyone. I am Alexis, and I will further discuss about principles of ecotourism. So, ecotourism. So, this focuses on the three core elements of ecotourism, namely the nature-based, educational, and sustainable manage. So, sustainable management of tourism takes into consideration the principles and practices that are ecologically, socially, culturally, and economically sustainable. So there are lots of sources that varies description about ecotourism. This was discussed by Ms. Pipito, and these are the other definitions and references by Ceballos Lascarin in 1996 that stated ecotourism is traveling to relatively undisturbed or uncontaminated natural areas with the specific objective of studying and so forth. While Strongza 2007 state that ecotourism is not merely an economic tool for conservation, but also the cause for understanding values and social relations. While Valentine 1993 state that ecotourism is restricted to tourism activities that are undertaken in relatively undisturbed natural areas, causing non-damage, non-degrading, non-ecologically unsustainable impact, contributing to the continued protection and management of the natural areas, and of course subjected to adequate and appropriate management regime. Australia Department of Tourism also stated a description that ecotourism is nature-based tourism that involves education and interpretation of the natural environment and is managed to be ecologically sustainable. So those there are two more, the International Ecotourism Society and the New Sam. These are the some of the definition and descriptions about the ecotourism. So next please. Next is these are the great features of the principles. So principles A is the nature based rather, while principle B is educational and principle C is the sustainable manage. So in principle A, natural areas, wildlife habitats, conservation areas, whether privately owned, are major tourist destinations. So responsible travel to natural regions is known as nature tourism, so which helps to protect the environment and enhance local quality of life. It is tourism that is centered on a location's natural assets. So tourist attractions, destinations are primarily nature-based. So that is the principle A. So this book focuses on the three core elements. Then knowing the principles of ecotourism will provide the fundamental basis which tourist manager can assess the basis by which the behavior of ecotourists and hence the nature of feature of the tourism product being developed. So examples include bird watching, photography, stargazing, camping, hiking, hunting, fishing, and visiting parks are the examples. So these experiential tourists are interested in a diversity of natural and cultural resources. So they want what is real cultural resources. So they want and what they want to be immersed in a rich natural cultural or historical experience. So that is the means of the principle A, the natural one. So let's go to the principle B. The learning component of ecotourism is an essential element in tourist experience. So the interactions of the tourist with the attractions are focused on learning or education. That is why the principle B rather is focused on educational. So ecotourists expect the nature-based experience is educational, so they prefer to learn something new or to simply gain an experience that complements or contrasts with their everyday life. So that was by Mitiglu 2007. So the quality of the learning experience in ecotourism is ensured when interpretation is professionally done and the information being conveyed is clear and accurate. So for the example is the tour guiding. So it's in tour guiding we don't just travel here and there, but we also have our educational information, like we learn something new about the current or where the place is located, what are the famous food and beverages there, the animals known there on the specific place that you are in too. So, educational tourism is one of the forms of tourism and is a way to give best education to students learning and to enhance knowledge. So, the growing popularity of attaining knowledge and technical competencies from the world's best destinations has resulted in increase in educational tourism. So, we don't just travel for fun, but we travel for knowledge. So, that is the principle B, the educational. So furthermore, it identified different formats of education tourism, so school trips and perhaps a follow-up visit with the children's parents, study abroad experiences, intensive study session with full cultural and linguistic immersion, seminar vacations or senior seminars hands-on experience vacation are somewhat examples of the principle B, which is the educational based tourism. Now let's have the principle C, the principle number 3, which is the sustainable approach or sustained manage. So this time, the management of tourism is based on the triple bottom approach of sustainable development. Also, is anyone here familiar about the triple bottom approach? So it's for you to find out now. So it is the model focuses on the integration of the environmental, social, cultural, and economic aspects of development. So the holistic approach to tourism management takes into account the interests and needs of all major stakeholders. So it doesn't just about travel here and there, but there are also major stakeholders. The model is a useful basis for promoting ecotourism in protected areas and other ecologically and culturally sensitive sites. So the management, so that is the approach, the triple bottom approach of sustainable development. So the provision of tourist experience and the development of tourist product are anchored on the triple bottom approach, so model of sustainable development. So although the economic benefits accruing to the local residents are important incentive for sustaining tourism development, so destination marketing should not limit its strategy to merely increasing the number of tourists traveling to the area. So it should also facilitate the implementation of sustainable development principles. So dili lang just na mag-travel tayo here and there, but also we have to sustain our environment, our the development of the surroundings that we have. So that is why oftentimes when we travel there are lots of entrances, right? So there are entrances when we go there, like the safari. So we have to pay for the environmental fee, like the parking fee or the travel fee. So that is one of the example. In Mualboal also you have to have a tourist pass, right? If I'm not mistaken. So you have to pay 100 to over 500 pesos for that is also to maintain sustainable development for the economy, for our economy rather. So triple line bottom approach is a way of measuring tourism impact on people, profit, and planet. So this triple line bottom is means the profit, the people, and the planet. So the people, we are the people, and the people there living, the citizens there, the tourist people, and the profit is that is what we gain to the tourist people. And then the planet is that is the environment or how we conserved our surroundings while we are on travel. So that is for the economics and on the environment. So an example of an organization seeking a triple bottom line would be a social enterprise run as a non-profit. So but earning income by offering opportunities for handicapped people who have been labeled unemployable to earn a living by recycling. So there are other examples for this too. Is like that the people who are tour guiding you then tour guiding you, you sometimes you have to pay them for the travel fee, right? And then they are unemployed but they are catering you, they give service to, so they earn by living or recycling. So as tourists also we have to use the 3 R's, which is the reuse, reduce, and recycle. So that is very essential to maintain cleanliness in our environment as we travel. So that's the next slide, please. Okay, so that ends my report. So that is about the principles of ecotourism. This ecotourism will be discussed by Manatad. So can we have Manatad to report ecotourist? The floor is yours, Manatad.
Thank you, Miss Alexis. Again, I'm Julito S. Manatad and I'm assigned to discuss ecotourism. What is ecotourist or who is an ecotourist? An ecotourist are those who visit a relatively undeveloped natural destination area and undertake recreational and leisure activities that are compatible with sustainable tourism. To understand what is ecotourist or who is an ecotourist, guys, just simply remember these words or these keywords that from the word itself, eco, it is relating to environment, while also from the word itself, tourist, which means people who visiting or traveling a place. So, ang ecotourist, sila ang mga tao nga mo-visit sa mga nagkalain-lain nga mga natural destination areas sa usa ka lugar, such as a cave, mountain, rivers, etc. ug mo-undertake sad sila og recreational or leisure activities that are compatible with sustainable tourism. So from the word itself, compatible, so in Tagalog tugma. So dapat ang ilang i-undertake nga recreational or leisure activity tugma or match siya sa sustainable tourism. For example, ako, moadto ko Mount Apo. Niya, di ba ang Mount Apo is the highest mountain in the Philippines? So, since mountain man siya, ang akong recreational activity nga i-engage is hiking para match siya sa sustainable tourism. Lain man sad kaayo kung i-engage nako kay swimming niya, mountain akong adtuan, di ba? It's not make sense. Also, according to Orams and Sharpley, ecotourists show responsible behavior, respect, and sensitivity to the local community and the environment. So matud pa ni Orams og ni Sharpley, ang ecotourist or ang mga tao nga mo-visit og local nga community and environment mo show og responsible behavior, respect, and sensitivity. Why? Because I believe, guys, those behaviors are essential when visiting a place within the community, especially environmental places. And also, I believe if you have those behaviors, you are an ecotourist. According to Pond, new tourists are ecotourists who are more experienced travelers, more flexible and independent in choosing destination and activities, more discerning in achieving quality experience, and more sensitive and willing to learn about the environment of the destination area. Si Pon nakaingon nga ang mga new tourists or ang mga new travelers kay more sensitive and willing to learn about the environment of the destination area. Kay sa una man gud, guys, based on my research, ang mga travelers daw kay mo travel sila para lang makataka sa ilang trabaho ug sa balay. So, kung ana imong mindset as a traveler, nagpasabot ana you are not willing to learn about the environment of the destination area. And also, you are not discerning in achieving quality experience. So, kung usa ka traveler, you should learn about the environment of the destination area and you should discerning in achieving quality experience. In relation to tourist experience, sharply underscores that ecotourists, unlike mass tourists, observe responsible behavior before, during, and after trip. So, according to Sharpley, and connected daw sa tourist experience, ang mga ecotourists or ang mga travelers mo observe of responsible behavior or mga responsibilities before, during, o after sa travel. What are those responsibilities? These are some responsibilities of an ecotourist must do before the trip. Ecotourist will determine if the tourism supplier or provider is environment friendly. So, before the trip, ang mga travelers ilang i-determine or ilang ila-ilahon if ang tourism supplier or provider such as airlines, accommodation, etc. kung environmental friendly ba siya. In a way nga dili siya maka-cause og harm sa environment kay you are an ecotourist man. So, dapat you have the responsible to take care of the environment. Kung wala kay concern sa environment, dili ka ecotourist. Next, ecotourist will determine if the revenue from tourism is equitably shared with the local community. So, for example, ikaw, usa ka traveler. So, as a traveler, i-determine sa nimo kung ang kita batikan sa tourism kay equal inigbahin sa local community. Why? Because community participation in tourism try to uphold the local culture, tradition, and indigenous knowledge of the local people. It also helps in conversation of the government and culture of the local community. For instance, tourism provides more jobs for local citizens, helps local citizens start businesses that cater to tourists, leads to generation of revenue from tourist spending and fiscal policies, and it aids in the development of infrastructure. And last, ecotourist will determine if the local community is involved in planning and management of the tourism product. So, kung ecotourist ka, i-determine sa nimo kung kanang usa ka community involved ba siya sa planning and management sa tourism product. Why? Because ang local community man good play an important role in tourism development. They are regarded as legitimate and moral stakeholders in tourism development. Local community has to be involved in policy and decision making so that it will enhance the trust and confidence of the local people on the tourism industry. So that's why you should make sure nga ang local community nga imong adtuan is involved in planning and management of the tourism product. Next. During the trip, ecotourists will ensure that their behavior is respectful of local culture and natural environment by avoiding social disruption, reducing environmental impact, and avoiding annoying social intrusion. So, kung ikaw, ecotourist ka, during sa travel nimo, mushow jud kag respect sa local culture. For example, moadto ka sa usa ka church, sa usa ka lugar, ibutang nato sa Thailand. Di ba ilang culture kung mo visit ka sa ilang church kay magwear man jud ka og appropriate nga attire or magwear ka og decent nga attire like dress sa babay and then long sleeve sa lalaki. So kana ilang local culture dapat mo respect jud ka. Kay bati man kaayo kung modify ka sa ilang culture, di ba? Also, mo respect sad ka sa ilang natural environment by avoiding social disruption, reducing environmental impact, and avoiding annoying social intrusion. Next, after the trip, ecotourists will apply their insights and learning from trip in their daily lives, such as becoming more aware and involved in conversation efforts, more appreciative of local culture, and more sympathetic to the welfare of the local communities. So kini, di ba, during sa imong travel, daghan man jud nag mga nahitabo. So, kasabot na daghan sad kag mga insights or learnings makuha ana. Katong mga insights and learnings nga imong na-gain during sa imong travel, i-apply sad na nimo sa imong kaugalingon kay para mas mo-grow ka as a ecotourist ug para mas maka-appreciate ka og mga cultures nga bag-o nimo or new sa imuha. And also, get involved in activities that promote conversation, environmental protection, and social welfare after developing deeper environment and social awareness during the trip. So, after the ay sa imong trip, mo engage sa day kag mga activities nga nag-promote og conversation, environmental protection, and social welfare. The best example ani kay kanang mag-create ka og coastal cleanup program. Di ba ang coastal cleanup program mao-joy kasagaran i-engage sa mga ecotourist in today's era or today's generation after sa ilang trip to protect environment. Kikaibaw man sila ang coastal cleanup promotes waste reduction, recycling and reuse, and creates public awareness of waste management and environmental concerns aside from helping reduce greenhouse gases, fight climate change, and improve the quality of the environment. Next. According to Weaver, there are two types of tourists, hard ecotourist and soft ecotourist. What are those types of ecotourists? Hard ecotourists are those with strong environmental concerns and responsibilities and are labeled as biocentric and ecocentric. So, ang hard ecotourist guys, sila na ang mga travelers nga naadyoy kanang strong o tinuod nga environmental concerns and responsibilities sa atuang nature. O gitawag sila biocentric and ecocentric. So, what are these? So, ang biocentrics, sila ang mga travelers nga ni-accept jud sa atuang nature largely on its terms rather than significantly transforming the environment or nature for personal convenience. So ang kining biocentric guys, sila jud ang kanang naay tinuod og sila joy ni accept og dako sa ato ang nature, while ang ecocentric sila ang mga naay serious nga concerned jud sa atong environmental issues. Sila ang kanang kinaunhan nga mo take care sa atong mga environmental issues. So mao nang kalihian sa biocentric ug ecocentric. Again, ang biocentric sila ang mga tinuod nga ni-accept sa atong nature, while ang ecocentric sila ang mga naay joy serious nga concern sa atong environmental issues. Next, self-ecotourists are those that have little concerns and responsibilities for the environment and are labeled as anthropocentric or utilitarian. So ang kining self-ecotourist guys, mura ni siya opposite sa hard ecotourist. Ang self-ecotourist sila ang mga naay gagmay ra nga concerns o responsibilities sa atong environment, and gitawag sila og anthropocentric or utilitarian. So anthropocentric or utilitarian is more siya concept of a human-centered nature. So from the word human-centered nature, so murag nag-focus sila sa ato ang nature, pero not kanang dili jud pareha sa katong hard ecotourist nga sila jud ang tinud-anay nga nag care, nag take care sa atong environment or sa atong nature. Next, there are three main group of tourists. Number one, do-it-yourself tourist group tours. Number two, upmarket tourist group tours. And number three, school tourist group tours. What are those types of tourist group tours? Number one, from the word itself, do it yourself, which means that all the planning of the trip and the executing of the plan is done by yours truly. You create your own plan that includes the things you most want to see and do. The plans involve you figuring out how to get to each location. You find your own lodging and food options. Number two, upmarket tourist group tours. A group of professional travelers who conduct tours for leisure that includes organizing sales and so on. While school tourist group tours, a group of people who conduct tours for educational purpose. And that's the end of ecotourist topic. I hope you learned something. Thank you.
So, there are fun facts about ecotourism. So, ecotourism appeals to ecologically and socially conscious individuals, also known as ecological tourism. So, it involves travel to pristine and protected areas where flora and fauna and cultural heritage are the main attractions. So, it helps the traveler to have personal growth and learn new ways to live on the planet. So, it is really fun to travel, right? Now, let's proceed with the next reporter, which is Miss Alarde.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Now that we know what ecotourism means, let's now have the what is the difference, right, between ecotourism and mass tourism? So basically, the International Ecotourism Society, or TICE, defines ecotourism as responsible travel to natural areas that conserve the environment, sustains the well being of the local people, and involves interpretation and education. Just like what Ms. Pepito and Ms. Anok discussed on their parts. Now, whereas mass tourism is defined as the movement of large number of organized tourists to popular holiday destinations for recreational purposes. Ecotourism versus mass tourism is the widespread consumption of standardized packaged goods is characteristics of this phenomenon. So, ecotourism is the opposite of mass tourism because mass tourism is characterized by large scale development which attracts large number of tourists, unlike ecotourism, which is more environmentally friendly and socially responsible, one that offers more meaningful encounter with nature and the host community. So, to further explain, if we talk about mass tourism, this offers like large group or daghan ang tourists. And then ang iyang destination is like more on the popular side of the site. Whereas when we talk about ecotourism, it's the total opposite of mass tourism because it is more on the nature side, the less popular, and so less popular man siya, mas gamay ang makater niya nga tourists. So that is basically the one of the main difference when we talk about ecotourism versus mass tourism. So, the term ecotourism typically refers to a form of nature based tourism that strives to be ecological, socio-cultural, and economically sustainable while providing opportunities for appreciating and learning about the natural environment or specific elements thereof. On the other hand, mass tourism, which is associated with traditional sea, sun, and sand tourism and winter ski tourism, has a number of negative effects on tourist destinations as a result of the high volume of tourists who visit them. And now, when we talk about the difference of ecotourism and mass tourism, dili rata mo ingon nga, mas daghan si mass tourism, mas less of tourists si ecotourism. We also have a negative effect. So for me, basically, if I were to choose between ecotourism and mass tourism, I would prefer ecotourism. Why? Because first, it offers less volume of people. So, mas ma-appreciate na to ang lugar kay gamay ra ang tourists. Whereas with mass tourists, daghan kay tourist imong makakuyog. But the attraction or site itself is beautiful also. Now, ecotourism is the antithesis of mass tourism because, in contrast to ecotourism, which is more environmentally and socially responsible and provides more meaningful encounters with nature, mass tourism is characterized by large scale developments that attract a number of tourists. Now, there are things to keep in mind. Eco-tourists are more likely to visit places surrounded by nature than mass tourists who are looking for a lot of distractions, cultural sites, and busy life of big cities. Like as I've mentioned earlier, with regards to eco-tourists, mas ang tourist kay mas I mean, with ecotourism, ang mga tourists kay mo prefer sila nature-based, mga less popular attractions as opposite with mass tourism. Now, besides ana, daghan pag differences between mass tourism and ecotourism. First, with regards to attraction, mass tourism is highly commercialized. Well, the with regards to ecotourism, it is moderately commercialized. Mass tourism is generic, and ecotourism is area specific. Mass tourism is contrived experience, while ecotourism is authentic experience because ang imong makakuyog is less number of people. Now, with regards to market, the mass tourism has a high volume package tours, while ecotourism has a low volume and individual arrangements because just like I've mentioned, mass tourism caters a large number of tourists, while ecotourism is more on the like family or relatives. With regards to accommodation, mass tourism offers large scale, while ecotourism offers a small scale. It is clustered in tourist area with regards to mass tourism, and ecotourism is dispersed throughout the tourist area. So sa ecotourism, ang iyahang mga like hotel accommodations is nagkatag siya sa site because gagmay raman ang ihang ma-offer or ma-cater ng mga tourists. Now, with regards to economic status, tourism dominates local economy when it comes to mass tourism. Now, ecotourism complements or supports local economy and livelihoods. Mass tourism, extensive leakage, while ecotourism has minimal leakage. Now, with regards to management and governance, The mass tourism is a non-local private sector, while ecotourism offers a local community. Uh, Mass tourism a short-term time frame, while ecotourism has a long-term time frame. Uh, so if we talk about government, mas mo prefer gid sila with mass tourism. Why? Because mas daghan ang makater, so mas daghan og makuha ang atong government if mo ato sila anak nga site. So basically, mas mo prefer jud sila with mass tourism other than the ecotourism. Okay, now with the next topic, the development of ecotourism as an industry, we have again Miss Eno.
Okay, it's me again. So, the development of ecotourism as an industry. So, since the environmental movement or the advent of environmentalism peaked in the 1960s, there has been an increase in the demand for ecotourism ventures. So, it was stated by Lee 1997. So, ecotourism is a rapidly expanding sector. So, Hawkins and Lemerick, so there are people who describe it, stated it, prove it. So, from the perspective of the industry, ecotourism is seen as a spectrum with a range of products. So, sa ecotourism industry, so dili lang just na mag-travel ta. But we also have to gather profit like for the economy, for the development of our society. So, sustainable tourism management should be both environmentally responsible and socially responsive to the needs and aspirations of the local community. So that is why before we travel, we have to pay for any expenses. We have to have financial financial funds within our pocket for us to be able to pay for the environmental fee. So that's it. So in many rural areas in the Philippines, ecotourism is considered as a supplementary source of livelihood, especially during the lean food production season. So, however, when poorly managed and operated with no regulatory measures in place, the intended alternative tourism venture can become as unsustainable as an ill-managed mass tourism. So, in this case, we have to be responsible, and that is why we have to take a wise decision making. We have to have an operational decisions and financial decisions making for us not to dili alkansi. So, dili lang sad ta magpasara-sara sa to ang money and sa to ang pag-travel kay it will affect not just yourself as a traveler but as well as to the owner of that current place that you wanted to travel to, or as well as to the our government, our economy. So it will to our livelihood basically. So it will really affect. The supply side of ecotourism in the Philippines is frequently influenced by economic and political forces at the expenses of the environment and the welfare of the local population. So, as I have said earlier, for instance, many coastal locations in the Philippines that cater primarily to mass tourists lack strategic and long-term management plans, or if they have, the plans are not well carried out. So, that is the example. So, there are beaches nga overpopulated na, right, kung mo ganahan ta mo ligo, right, so kana siya na lack of poor manage na siya since too much gani ang people, so daghan gani kag turista nya dili ang uban kay irresponsible, then there are lots of waste everywhere, so that can also cause what you call that pollution. So that's why that we have to plan well, decide well, and to cater the people or the tourist thoroughly. So next, so the conclusion will be concluded by Alarde. So here you go again, Miss Alarde.
Thank you so much, Alexis. So now that we know what are the difference of ecotourism and mass tourism, what are the different types of ecotourists, the principles of ecotourism, and what is ecotourism is. So, to conclude our report, when can we consider the tourism development sustainable? So, I have here, or we have prepared three. So, first, tourism activities are socially and culturally sensitive and responsible. That would be the first point that we can consider the tourism development sustainable. Why? Because they make the most of the environment's resources, which are crucial to the growth of the tourism, the maintenance of vital ecological processes, and your contribution to the preservation of natural heritage and biodiversity. Now, second, the local community is involved in the planning and management of tourism and given the opportunity to own a tourism business and benefit from it. So we can say tourism development is sustainable if ang a local community kay involved sila sa pag plan sa tourism sa ilahang lugar. Murag apil gid sila sa pagplan ana nga tourism sa ilahang lugar. So, lastly, the negative effects of tourism are minimized.
Minimize.
They respect host communities' socio cultural authenticity, preserve their cultural heritage and traditional values in their built and living environments, and contribute to intercultural understanding and tolerance. So, those three are the point that we can consider if the tourism development is sustainable. So to end our report, I have prepared here a note that sustainable tourism should ensure a high level of customer satisfaction and a meaningful experience for tourists, raise their awareness of sustainability issues, and encourage them to use sustainable tourism practices.
So that's end our report. Thank you, Miss Pipito and Miss Alarde. Bye. Next slide. So thank you and God bless.